This is Up for Debate, episode number 210, recorded June 24th, 2021. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Up for Debate, the debate podcast where the two hosts agree on everything. I'm Sean Jennings, joined as always by, he may not be fast and furious, but he is quick and angry. It's Matt Mariani. Hello, Matt.
Hello, Sean. How are you doing? I clicked this pen before I started the podcast, and now I'm afraid to unclick it because it'll make a noise, but I'm just going to do it anyway. Ooh, what a twist.
Oh, you broke it.
I broke the pen. Yeah, it's that way forever now. How are you doing tonight? How's it going?
Matt, I'm thrilled to be here as we embark on a new adventure here on the show. We've done film franchises before. This isn't a new concept to us.
No, it is not.
Famously did James Bond, which had about 1 million movies in it. We did Rocky, which also seemed to have a lot of movies in it.
Yeah, the
Matt,
Rockyverse.
For our summer blockbuster series, we're going to one of the biggest franchises in the history of cinema, actually ranked 7th in all-time franchise box office gross, just behind James Bond.
That's really kind of hurt me to hear that.
We're talking $6 billion worldwide across their 10 films, including one of the films that has grossed $1 billion all by itself, $1.5 billion all by itself. Oh, no, two of them, I'm sorry, crossed the $1 billion mark. Matt, we're talking about the Fast Saga.
The Fast and the Furious.
Yes, exactly, Matt. We've got them both. We got the Vin Diesel. We got the Paul Walker. We got the Tyrese. We got them all. And Matt, we're going to watch all 10 movies.
Luda was in, I think, the second movie.
He was Ludacris. We've got Jordana Brewster, Michelle Rodriguez. We've got Johnny Strong, Rick Yoon. Matt, Rick Yoon.
Rick Yoon, the one and only. The Rick
Johnny
Yoon.
Tran. Devin Aoki. Cole Hauser. Eva Mendes. Right. And we're just talking about the first two movies.
That's quite an all-star cast. I mean, I know who a couple of those people. I know who Vin Diesel is. I know who he is. You know, he's somebody I've heard of. So
yes, I mean the man's got a car name. He should be in a car movie.
Yeah.
Do you know what Vin Diesel's real name is?
No, I don't. It's not Vin Diesel?
It's even more sad and boring than you can imagine. I would say the anti-movie star name.
Johnny Book.
Worse. Mark Sinclair.
That's not a bad name.
It's very boring. Okay. That's like an accountant or a lawyer is Mark Sinclair.
Yeah, that's a very lawyerly name. I did hear though that I think it was Vin Diesel. He used to be he was big into D&D. Loved D&D. Yes. He was like a total nerd as a kid, and then got some muscles and starred in movies.
Absolutely, and those movies include the franchise we're going to be covering, Matt. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the first two entries in the franchise, 2001's The Fast and The Furious, and then its sequel, 2003's Too Fast, Too Furious. And Matt, it sounded to me like you had quite a blast participating in watching this movie.
Oh, it was something. Like I said before the show started, I took copious notes. Copious is probably not a word that is ever said or uttered by any character in this movie, but actually the notes I took for this movie are greatly outweigh the notes I took for the sequel, and I think there's probably a very good reason for that.
Okay.
And so I don't know, like where should we begin? I guess what I kind of want to do here is maybe talk about the plot.
Sure.
And I think we can do this, like, I'll try to recall as much of the plot as I possibly can. Because I don't know, you may not know this about me, Sean. I have a really hard time paying attention to stuff.
Yeah.
All right, it's one of my many faults, and if a movie doesn't, I don't know, if a movie doesn't like catch me the right way, I can like tune out. I can like turn my brain off or think about things too much. So there might be some gaps here in my memory. So maybe is that cool? Should we just start out like
I would love that, but can I preempt you? I can do the whole plot in 4 words.
They're too fast and furious. That's 5 words.
No. Point Break with cars.
Yeah, no, you're right.
I mean, they just remade Point Break. I mean, it's pretty obvious.
That is 100% what this movie is. Yeah, you're right. You're right. With cars, but no masks. They don't have the president masks.
They don't.
Which is the best part of Point Break.
That's right. They show their faces. They're pretty bold. They're in those cars. They got masked cars, I guess.
Yes.
And they're stealing DVD players instead of robbing banks.
Was that what they were stealing? I thought they were like old TVs.
Well, they were electronics, and what was in the they mentioned by name DVD players.
Oh man, to be in 2001 again.
Yeah, right. Or it's like that's the cutting edge. It's like, what do you think a tractor trailer truck full of DVD players and small screen TVs are worth?
Wow, it's a couple $100 right here.
I mean, I do think at one point the line is uttered in the film that he like before the last heist he had done like $6 million worth of stolen electronics.
Somebody would notice that eventually, right?
Well, they did. That's why they were trying to catch him.
Right. That is so dumb. So their plan was to steal all of these DVD players by driving really fast. They drive fast, get them off the truck, drive really fast away.
No, I think they hijack the truck.
Oh, and then drive it really fast.
Yes, away.
That was in the opening scene, yes.
Yeah.
You had to really kind of be
before you knew who the bad guys were.
I was getting all set up. I was getting my Bomba. You like Bomba, Sean?
No.
You ever have Bomba? Oh, it's great. Yeah. It's my new favorite movie snack. Oh. It's like Cheetos, but instead of being cheesy, it's peanut butter.
Yeah.
If you don't like peanut butter, you're not gonna be sold on it. So.
You can eat mine.
All right. So I was getting that ready, so I missed the whole first scene. But
boy. It's a bad plan. I mean, I'll come right out and say it. Bad plan. There are much easier ways to steal them than to chase it down with a bunch of cars, shoot a harpoon through the window while it's driving, then jump from a car onto the truck and try and, wrestle the driver away from the truck. Bad plan.
Doesn't sound like a great plan.
No.
So we start off, like you said, with that heist scene.
Yes.
Where they try to hijack the truck, plot development. Then we immediately cut to our main character, Paul Walker, who
Brian O'Connor.
But he's going under a different name in this movie.
Yes.
Which
his undercover name.
His undercover name is Silverman or something. It's really. They made it. I believe when they were making this movie, they said, "Find the whitest name you can find, so we can make a joke about how white it is later on."
Yep.
Which they do in the second or third scene.
I think they call him a snow globe or snowflake.
Snowman. I wrote that down. Yes, I'll get there. So he's going under an assumed name.
Yep.
And he is going to a diner. Walks into
Toretto's Market.
He asks for a tuna sandwich.
Yes, no crust.
Without a crust. Now, that immediately strikes the other guy who's at the diner as extremely suspicious because, quote, "The tuna in this place is terrible. No one would order a tuna sandwich every day," or something like that. Right?
Yes.
I feel like they could have done a little bit of a better job, right? Like setting this rivalry up, this problem that they have with each other.
Yeah, it is kind of weird that's
the trigger. That's like, wait a minute, the tuna here sucks. No one could possibly like tuna.
I think
they're here for nefarious reasons.
To me, that scene was really more about introducing the Toretto family than it was about, because honestly, they could have just cut right to that first race at that point,
right?
Which would have been a fine introduction for Brian. It's just then you wouldn't have known who any of these people were.
Well, you also have to establish that Vin Diesel's character, Dominic, you have to establish that he has clout, right? That he has some kind of like, because he says you work for this guy, right? And he says that's right. The other Brian O'Connor, who is going under the alias as Brian Spillner, which is amazing.
Spillner,
he changes his last name, not his first name stays the same. And Brian Spillner, and he says to him, well, you just lost that job, the job that you have. So it's establishing that he knows people around town. Dominic Toretto is the name of Vin Diesel's character. Right? It establishes that he's a guy that people know and people depend on, and so he calls him up and he's like, oh, I'm going to have to fire you because this guy told me you suck. And so he said, and so at this point, Sean, when we see the wall that is plastered with Nas stickers, and up until now, I thought that Nas was an energy drink.
They used the brand later on energy drinks.
Was it because of this movie?
Well, it was clearly product placemented in this movie because it's all over the movie, but I don't think it was an energy drink before the movie. Okay. I don't think.
When I saw the stickers, I thought, oh, that's interesting. Like maybe the company paid a lot of money to advertise their energy drink. But then they talk about how they need it to be injected into their cars. He's like, I need Nas, man. I need Nas. And I was like, oh, okay, he's gonna get hopped up on energy drinks and go and fight Vin Diesel. That's what's gonna happen right now.
No.
Then they say no. They make it very clear that it's nitrous oxide is what Nas is. They say, I believe his boss, the car garage guy, says, you can't put that much nitrous oxide in the car. It's going to explode because you drive with a lead foot. Now, I don't know anything about cars. I should probably preference this before we even start talking about the movie at all. I know nothing about him. Sean, can you just inject your car with nitrous oxide to make it run faster? It seems extremely dangerous and ill-advised.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unless you really know what the hell you're doing. You've got to be some kind of, like, engineering wizard, I would assume.
No, absolutely. No, you can. It is a real thing. And what it is the system increases... It's a special part for your car in which oxygen for burning fuel comes from the decomposition of nitrous oxide. Blah, I can't talk today. The system increases the engine's power output by allowing fuel to be burned at a higher than normal rate because of the higher partial pressure of oxygen injected in the fuel mixture. Now, nitrous oxide is not flammable at room temperature, but it is under pressure.
It's only flammable when you shoot it a whole bunch of times, as we see later.
Yes,
on.
And your car's on fire and explodes.
Of course. So, okay. So they've got these canisters of he puts them in his car, and he's like, oh, I'm going to go so fast now. I've got this nitrous oxide. Of course, this leads immediately to the drag race scene, I believe. I don't think there's anything that happens in between.
There's a little scene where he goes to Dodger Stadium, and he drives and fails, and... But yeah, no. Basically, the next interesting thing is the race.
They go to so it's a drag race scene, which the racers seem to be broken up into ethnic stereotypes.
Oh, 100%. It's amazing. This movie very bad.
Yeah.
With the ethnic pieces of it.
That's bad stuff. You got your African American racer, who has all African American friends. You've got your Latina and Latino racers who have their friends, and then and then the Asian racers got all those Asian friends, and then of course they comment on him on Spillner, the main character, and they say that they call him Snowman. They say that's the whitest name I ever heard.
By the way, nobody says, hey, I wonder if that guy's a cop.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. But nobody wonders, like, is this guy a cop? this guy looks like a cop.
This guy we've
kinda
never seen
acts
before,
like a
who's
cop.
incredibly white and seems out of place.
Yes, the way he dresses, the way that I wrote everything about him. He might as well have been wearing a badge that says "I'm a cop, I'm an undercover cop," and it was but no. Instead, they let him race. They're cool with him right off the bat, even though nobody really knows who he is. Which I couldn't really tell. Was he like supposed to be infiltrating the underground race scene, or was he like? Was he known? Did people know who he was? Like, he didn't even have a good story. He didn't say like, "I'm from out of town. I just heard about this and I came over from like this town."
I think it's a combination of a couple things. One, as we learn in Too Fast, Too Furious, he had a background in like jacking cars, and so he had a car background. But we kind of joined the movie in the middle of the investigation.
2 years in juvie, I believe.
2 years in juvie, with his friend Roman. And so we joined the movie in the middle of the investigation. So my guess is because he's working at the auto parts shop. And so my guess is that was his very first entry. Then he learned who the players were, got a car, learned Toretto basically runs it, and started cozying up to him.
And so it became his life's mission to shut this down. This racing scene that he loved so much.
No, his life's mission is to find out who's stealing the DVD player.
I guess that's true. Yeah, that's.
I don't think he really cares about the racing.
This is kind of it's a means to an end, and I mean, let's face it, LA seems to be pretty cool with it too. Like none of the cops only care when it's convenient, when it's the race is over, so everybody can like run away. They don't really like. They've got bigger things going on. Some guy they establish is like listening to radio chatter to make sure that the police have like better things to do so they can like time their races.
Yeah, they wait till there's like a murder or something.
What happens if like it's a really quiet night and the police don't have anything? All right, go home. We gotta go. It's too hot.
Try again tomorrow.
Well, I mean, we'll try to plan it around like a bank heist or something. Like, I don't know. So the race goes off mostly without a hitch. I wrote, could the drag race be any more nondescript? I mean, you've got all these cars, people dancing, loud music. They close down literal blocks of the city, and the police have they don't care, or they've been paid off. See, if they had been paid off, Sean, I think I would have like it would have sat better with me if like somebody had bribed them. But no, it's just they just don't. I don't know. They don't care. They don't seem to mind.
Nah, it's a movie. I wouldn't overthink it. It's not a fun movie if they start racing and the cops immediately come in and arrest everyone.
I think that would be a really fun movie, but anyway, I guess you're right. I need to really take this movie for what it is, and this is what happens when you watch like I don't know, Inception right before you watch this. So, yeah. Then after the race is over, Sean.
Well, I want to say about the race.
Yeah.
I think so this is a poorly directed movie. And the script isn't particularly good either. But it's a nondescript shot movie, except I did like the effects in the race scene where everything was kind of like blurring behind them, and the race felt exciting to me. I will say I thought that was decently shot and kind of fun.
Yeah.
Very video gamey.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it reminded me so much of the pod racing from Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
That was what I was thinking about the whole time. Mostly, I mean, partially because the characters were all racial stereotypes. But the second part, I think, is, yeah, you're right. It was an exciting, very video gamey kind of race. I think one of the racers is actually playing a video game on his, like, some kind of portable device that they must have had in 2001.
Oh, no, he had a
portable PlayStation?
He had like a small TV and is hooked up to a PlayStation, which is very strange. That's a little much.
Like, they were showing each racer's like pre-race activities that they do. So, the race happens. Our hero does not win. He comes in second place behind Vince Diesel's or Dominic Toretto's superior racing abilities. He like schools him a little bit. He's like, it's not about how fast you go. It's about what he says is, it's one thing to stand next to your car and look cool. It's one thing, another thing to look cool driving it, or something like
yeah. Well, the line, "You almost had me. You never had me. You never had your car. Granny shifting, not double clutching like you should. You're lucky that 100-shot of NOS didn't blow the welds on the intake. You almost had me. You tell him, Dominic. Now me and the mad scientist gotta rip apart the block and replace the piston rings you fried. Ask any racer, any real racer. It doesn't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning." I'm working on my Vin Diesel impression. It's not very good.
It was a little rocky in the beginning. Like,
well, that's I consider
like
him, and I'm not
Rocky,
grumbly.
Like
I gotta mumble more.
It was like Rocky Balboa in the beginning.
You almost
it was
had
better.
me.
It was better. No,
almost
it got
had
better
me.
as it went along. I think
Okay, thank you.
You're on the right track. Yeah. So that's the pearls of wisdom that this movie tries to instill on you. Winning is winning.
That's right.
Plain and simple.
Classic.
So, I think right after they have a bit of a long night. They are driving. No, the police show up.
Yes.
And everybody
Dom tries
runs away.
to escape. He does a poor job of it, so Brian has to come in and sweep him up in his car that I thought would be kind of fucked up after the race, and somehow is like perfectly fine.
No, it's driving completely fine because the
no
story
problem.
needs it to. So
and he helps him escape the cops.
Yep.
And then, do they go to Johnny Tran's place?
No. So
night?
What happens is they're driving home, and they get immediately surrounded by motorcycles, and Vin Diesel goes, "Oh no!" And then I keep calling him. Wanting to call him Billy, but it's not Billy. He goes, "What?" And then he's like, "We're in for a long night." And then so who's surrounding the car is Johnny Tran's men. Johnny Tran and his men, I should say.
Yes.
And they take him to, Sean. Would you like to describe where they take him?
I don't know what that was.
So they surround him with these motorcycles, and I think one guy points a gun at him and says, "Come with us," right? So they go to it's like a statue park of Confucian statues with a giant, like one of those big Chinese gates that you would see in front of like a Chinatown.
Yeah.
I think it's supposed to be a restaurant, like a Chinese restaurant. That maybe
yeah, because there are people eating, but then there's also like a giant warehouse and a garage. Because at some point it's like Johnny Tran's garage.
So I don't think they ever really explain what that place is. I just like all of the Confucian statues, because who doesn't have like tons of Confucian, like more statues than you would know what to do with, unless they're selling the statues, which they could be like a business where they make and sell Confucius statues.
I mean, their business is probably crimes.
Yeah,
I think the rest is just a bunch of fronts,
front.
right?
Yeah, I would say so. They get out of the car. The Johnny Tran and his men disembark from their motorcycles, their motorbikes, and they say, it all immediately establishes that this guy is the villain. He's bad.
Yes.
This guy is a bad guy. Like Brian might as well have had a badge that said "I'm a cop." Johnny Tran might as well have had a T-shirt that said "I'm the villain of the movie." So he says a bunch of bad stuff to Vin Diesel's character, establishing that they have a history. They've got bad blood in the background, and I think does he want money from Vin Diesel, or what does he want? What is his motive here, or is he just being a tool for no reason?
No, he definitely had some kind of. I know that Dom does the line, "and I slept with his sister."
Right.
So there's that, and I think there is some other stuff that he owes him. I don't remember specifically.
No, yeah, he we should mention before, when Brian races the car in the drag race, he bets his car.
Yes.
Because he's low on money. So he comes in.
He bets his slip.
So my question, before we talk more about Tran, is can you do that? Can you just I guess people do that when they gamble in casinos. Like I bet my house, so I bet, compulsive gamblers will do that. But is it enough to just give somebody the deed to your car and be like, you own it now, it's yours? Don't you have to get titles changed and stuff at the DMV?
No, I believe theoretically there is a spot on the back of the title where you can sign it, And you can see, I mean, eventually you got to get plates moved. I mean, it's not like you just give him the car, but yes, theoretically, yes.
Okay. I was just thinking that, like, yeah, he could get in trouble, right, Dominic? If he like took the car and just drove away with it without any of that info getting changed.
I mean, I guess if he got pulled over, I guess it's just one of those crimes that is barely
probably
a crime.
The least of his worries would be my guess.
Yeah, he's doing a lot more illegal stuff than that.
All right, so it turns out that Tran is and his right hand man Lance.
Yes,
Lance is his like assistant, like his sidekick, basically. What they want is that's why they're pissed off, because they were racing in his territory, his turf.
yes.
So to teach him a lesson before they go, Johnny Tran machine guns the car, and of course it's got. I love the. It's like the director knew the audience was going to forget this, so he has Vin Diesel shout right before the car explodes, "Watch out, the Nas," which might be my favorite line in the whole movie.
I love it.
Nas.
The
And
Nas.
so they jump out of the way just in time to clear the massive explosion, which was a really good explosion. There's good special effects in these movies. It was impressive. I thought it was one of the best looking explosions of a vehicle that I've ever seen and I'm totally not exaggerating. It was a really good looking explosion. The fire like creeps up and does it. It was very believable. Like if you shot a gun at a car filled with Nas, I don't know if it would explode. Mythbusters probably has done a test on this, but I was impressed. I was very impressed by the special effects. So, then they have no car. I guess they walk back to Dominic's house, like which is like basically a hideout for his friends, his cronies, and they're having a party there.
Yeah, he gets into a little beef with Vince.
Yes.
Who's a little jealous that he's joining the team.
He doesn't like his new friendship with...
Dom gives Brian Vince's beer.
Mm-hmm.
He flirts with Mia some. Continuing on.
Yeah.
They start to put together a new car. At the shop, Brian starts dating Mia. We fast forward through time a little bit. He starts investigating Johnny Tran.
Before we go to that, I really liked how Mia wouldn't go out with him. She's like, I don't date my brother's friends. It's the same scene. I don't date my brother's friends. It's like my principle. It's like a thing that I believe. I don't date my brother's friends for whatever reason. Okay. The guy walks in from before, whose name I forgot. Is it Vince? Vance?
Yeah.
So Vince is like being a jerk like he usually is. He's like, put a dress on. He says to Brian, clean my car and then put a dress on because I'm going to put you out in the street so you can make some money for me, cutie. Which is a really awful and strange thing to say to somebody you barely know. So in reaction to this, Mia says to him, what was that restaurant you keep trying to get me to go to with you? He tells her, and then she turns around to Brian and is like, you can take me there.
Yeah. Yeah, this is one of the many times in the movies you can tell when they were writing it, they're like, hey, we need X to happen. And they're like, but would a character really do that? Or does it make sense? And they're like, no. Just have him do it. Like, it doesn't have to make sense. It just, whatever's the easiest way to do it, just do it.
I don't really know. I guess there was no reason for her to be like, but I don't date my brother's friend. She might as well have just not said that. She might as well have been like, okay, let's go to this restaurant. They said they made like a big thing about it. And then the same scene, a couple of minutes later, she's like, oh, okay, yeah, we'll go to this restaurant. Screw you, Vance, or Vince, or whatever your name. He by the way, he deserves it mostly, but he gets dogged throughout this whole movie.
Oh,
by
yeah.
just about everybody in his family. They call themselves a team, and this team just treats him like shit through the whole thing. But like we said, he kind of deserves it. He's a little bit of a jerk.
But the crazy thing is, he was right. Brian is a cop. Like, he should have
and
been
that's true.
suspicious.
He was right the whole time, yes.
Give the man some credit.
Yes, validation.
Oh, my God. Poor guy.
Yeah. All right, so we fast forward a little bit. Are we up to Desert Burning Man yet?
No, before that is when they go to Johnny Tran's garage, because that's who Brian thinks is the one hijacking the DVD players. So he breaks into Johnny Tran's garage, and he starts looking around, and he's found by Dom and Vince, who say, he's a cop, Vincent, he's a cop. And he says, no, I was just here to spy on what they were doing for the upcoming event. What kind
Wars.
Of race wars?
Race wars. I keep
just think about Can we just pause for a second on that phrase? Race wars.
Really not a great thing.
I just wrote in my note, race wars. That's all I wrote. Race wars. I'm just gonna keep saying it. It's the stupidest.
Not a great thing. Nobody wants
wars.
a race war, and nobody is trying to get excited about one. No, not a great thing.
It's very bad.
So there's a race war in the desert, which is more. They probably should have gone with the name of what it actually is, which is Drag Race Burning Man.
Would have been much better
because that is what exactly. It's in the desert on a military base. Question mark?
Yeah. It was kind of because it looked like they were kind of breaking in, but there was also like real deal security. So
they were cool with it because the security were the ones that were letting them in and saying like, you could race on this. Very clearly a military base. They needed a cool place to have this race. It couldn't just be in the middle of the desert.
Oh, race wars is a real thing.
With the name Race Wars.
Yes, they started doing it after the movie.
Okay.
But they called it Race Wars based on the movie.
Right. Because why not? Nobody stopped and thought, like,
that's
bad name. Just
very bad
name. Like, okay.
But they do find a bunch of electronics in Tran's garage. Very suspicious. And Brian reports that discovery, and they raid it. They raid the garage and they go to arrest Johnny Tran, but they have one of my favorite lines in the movie that, to me, continues to not make sense. Let me see if I can find it in here. And of course, he gets out of jail, Johnny Tran does, because it says here, Agent Bilkins is talking with Sergeant Tanner, two of the cops, the FBI guy and the cop. Agent Bilkins says, the DVD players were purchased legally. All we've got on Tran and his boys are some low-rent weapons charges and some outstanding speeding tickets. Why did they have a bunch of legally purchased DVD players of the exact same kind that were being stolen by Dom?
Wait. Something in this movie doesn't make sense?
It's just like there would have been a bunch of
No, they thought about the things that happened in this movie very carefully.
What were they doing with all those DVD players?
35 minutes thinking about this. No. I don't know. The answer is
dumb.
They had to just say that they were doing something wrong, but it wasn't a big deal. I think they said all we can get them on are some bum weapon charges or something.
Yeah, but they legally purchased a bunch of the same DVD players that were being stolen. Anyway.
Maybe as decoys? Maybe to, in case they got caught?
Maybe.
I don't know.
But this is when Brian starts to realize that, no, Dom is the bad guy. He's the one doing it.
Yeah. Oh, all of the cops act like dads. I wrote that in my notes.
Yes.
They're very clueless. They're aloof and clueless dads. All the cops that are superiors to Brian.
Now, Matt, can I ask you now? Might be a good time to ask you a question I have written in my notes. How likely would you be to spot a cop amongst your friends?
Amongst my friends, I would probably look at the one that is like, "Hey guys, where's the race? Where's Race Wars at?" where Sean is pointing to himself.
No, say it into this microphone. Where's the Race Wars?
Oh yeah.
No, it's just one of those things where I'm like, I get like at first Brian is like, he gets into it, but I'm like, at what point in the movie should... Because, by the way, at no point do they realize a cop. He tells them he's a cop. They never actually figure it out on their own.
No. I think he straight up tells Mia.
Yes, he's like, I am an undercover police officer.
He basically, he spells it out in a later scene, yeah.
But at what point should they have figured it out? Like, and it just got me thinking, like, if I had a new guy, like, show up to the office, and I was like, hey, this guy seems pretty cool, and you're meeting and hanging out, and he becomes a friend, and...
Show me like, your illegal DVD player.
You go out to a bar. Yeah, and they ask a bunch of questions, but I'm not suspicious for some reason, and then they turn... Like, could I fall for that?
I think that he plays it off pretty well when he's with, like, Vin Diesel's character. But it was the fact, to me, it was the fact that when he's snooping around the garage... And he gives a really kind of a terrible reason for why he's doing that, which is like, I was just trying to see what they got under the hood so we can, get ready for the next race. Like, I don't know. Yeah, it's weird. He's when he's with Dominic though, I feel like he's pretty cool. Like he doesn't like overplay his hand.
Well, and if you think about it too, at no point also, see, this is why this movie is so goddamn stupid. At no point does Brian actually... Dom never tells Brian he's doing the heists. Brian just sort of figures out, and then Mia says they're doing the... But at no point does he, like, Dom actually say, oh, by the way, we're doing the heist, you should join us. Or, like, we're heisting. So he never actually confesses to the cop that he does it.
No. Brian just kind of pieces it together.
Yeah.
Basically.
Anyway, I'm overthinking it. Yep. We go to the race wars. We haven't talked about Jesse, who wagers his car against Trans and loses it. Dominic and Tran get in a fight because Johnny Tran accuses him of Dom of being the rat.
Yes, I wrote that down too. I
ain't no narc.
It's a fight that just comes out of nowhere. I wrote that I think Dominic, his sugar levels might have been low, or maybe he was dehydrated. But out of nowhere, the Johnny Tran shouts at him and says, he's like,
I've got the quote here.
I know it was you.
SWAT came into my house, disrespected my whole family because somebody narked me out, and you know what? It was you.
And then Vin Diesel just punches him right in the face immediately.
Yeah.
Without any kind of...
And then just keeps beating his ass.
If somebody accused you of being a narc, and the first thing you did, the way you reacted, instead of saying, dude, it wasn't me, I'm not a narc, was to punch them right in the face, I would probably say that kind of clinches it. You're like, yeah, okay, you're figured out. Like, I figured you out. You're a narc. So,
yeah.
And you're trying to, like, get away now. No, I don't know.
And then Dom, after the fight, I never knocked on nobody. I never knocked on nobody. As he's, like, being pulled. I never knocked on nobody.
I never narked on nobody.
Yep, classic line.
Was this before or after they had the nice little family dinner and said grace?
This was before.
Okay, because I like that part.
Yeah, so that's coming up.
Yeah.
That is...
all right, so is it? It's at race. It's at Race War. It's at Drag Race Burning Man when they're all dancing at the night party, right? Where Brian tells Mia that he's a cop.
Yes.
Says your brother's in trouble. I've got to go save him.
Yep.
He's and then she's like, but he went out on the mission. He went out on the job or whatever, right? And he's like, we got to go help him out. So then it must have been after the dinner, right?
Oh, maybe it was. Maybe I'm getting mixed up.
So they have the dinner in the backyard, and he has the nerdy mechanic guy, the mad scientist, whose name is like Trevor or something.
Jesse,
right? And he has him say grace, and he thanks God for the Nas and
a bunch of other car things,
and a bunch of car things, and yeah, it's this very awkward scene where the mean guy, who's the guy who's mean to Brian, Vince, he shows up late to the dinner, and he's like, well, I got to eat somewhere.
Yeah, he's all pissed.
He's all kind of huffy and pissed off, and
And then this is where Dom and Brian go into Dom's garage to look at the Dodge Charger he built with his father, and we get his backstory about how his, that's my dad. He was coming up on the pro stock circuit. Last race of the season, he was coming into the final turn when a driver named Kenny Linder tapped his bumper and put him into the wall at 120. I watched my father burn to death. I can still remember him screaming. And then he talks about how he beat him to death, and that's why he was in prison. And then the iconic line of the movie, maybe even the franchise, is said at this point, I live my life 1/4 mile at a time. Nothing else matters. Not the mortgage, not the store, not my team and all their bullshit. For those 10 seconds or less, I'm free.
Right, and then Brian immediately responds, dude, you need to get some therapy.
And he does encourage him to finally get out and drive that damn car.
You need to see somebody about this. This is
okay,
not
dude?
good to keep this pent up like that.
He slowly pulls a wrench away so Dom doesn't beat him with it.
And Brian says, cool. So I'm going to go, and I'll catch you.
We'll see you on the flip side, yeah.
By the way, I'm not a cop, and I'm going to, I'll hang out. I'll see you later. By the way, where's the race at again? And
the Race Wars? Yeah.
Race Wars. Yeah, very good scene. Obviously setting up. He's going to drive the car later because he says he's never driven it and he's afraid to drive it.
Yes.
So it's going to come back later on. Chekhov's gun, Chekhov's race car is
100%.
set up. Chekhov's nitro engine.
And now we can fast forward to the final heist. On the road, we've got the team in their... I believe they were Honda Civics, tracing down that semi-truck filled with DVD players. They're starting the heist, but unbeknownst to them, the driver is loaded. He has a shotgun. Meanwhile, Mia and Brian are chasing behind. Brian, at this point, revealing he's a cop. He calls in, tries to locate them on their cell phones, which I guess cops can just do. And the heist goes wrong. Vince gets shot. Letty gets run off the road.
I'm sure the phone locating was very high tech and novel in 2001. Today it's just part of the dystopia that we live in, and we all just accept. But back in 2001, it was whoa, they're probably using satellite technology to figure out to triangulate and pinpoint where he is, and now it's just Target knows where I am, at all times. Taco Bell. Yeah. I had Taco Bell for lunch today. They knew where I was. It's not as novel anymore. The novelty has the shine is worn off.
Oh yeah. So no, for sure.
But I will say, when they were making the movie, they were very excited about it.
I do think it was an exciting sequence. I did enjoy it. I think it was action packed, a little much, but it was tense at moments. We got to see a few car wrecks, which was pretty cool. But basically, the whole crew. Vince is airlifted to safety, and the rest of the crew escape before the authorities arrive.
Yes. At some point, I think it was... we are just going to mention really quickly before. He's talking to Jesse, because they have to have a moment where he bonds with each member of the crew.
Yes.
And how he bonds with Jesse is Jesse shows him a program on his computer.
A CD-ROM.
Floppy disk. Did you see that?
Oh, it is a floppy. You're right. It is a floppy disk.
Yeah. He pulls out the old floppy disk, and it's a program that it's one of those. He just types a bunch on the computer, and images pop up. I love that.
A car and different springs
movies.
And shit.
A car pops up and an engine, and his reaction to all of this, as he's talking about the car mumbo jumbo, is Brian says to him, "Wow, you should go to MIT."
Yeah.
And Jesse says, "Nah, man, I've got attention deficit disorder." And
the only time I'm quiet is when I'm working on cars. Yeah.
And, oh, man.
Sensitive stuff.
Oh, God. Yeah. So, all right. So, yes. He's got attention deficit disorder, and the only thing he can do right is cars, because engines make him feel good.
Well, Matt, I wouldn't worry about it, because I think something bad is about to happen to Jesse. After the chase, Brian goes to Dom's house to try and apprehend him. They fight and argue a little bit. Dom is worried about Jesse, but Jesse arrives at the house, pleads for help and protection from Johnny Tran, and then Tran runs by and shoots Jesse dead with a machine gun.
Yes, and I thought that Jesse was going to make it. I thought he was going to like get shot but be okay, because that was kind. But I guess they needed to have some kind of stakes in the movie.
The emotional stakes.
Yeah,
of it, yeah.
He doesn't really get a great send off though. He's just kind of dead. And they're like, oh, Jesse's dead. Well,
yeah,
we should do
yeah. For a
something about
character
that.
that was supposed to be like the sympathetic underdog.
Yeah, and they go through a really long period of the movie trying to establish that this group is a family. Right, they've known each other since they were kids. They are very protective of each other. They have great bonds. But when Jesse gets gunned down by Johnny Tran, they're all just like, "Ah, damn it! They got him. They got Jesse. Shit. What are we gonna do now? What's the next move?"
Well, their next move is get in their cars, which is basically what they do the whole goddamn movie. They trace Tran and Lance, kill Tran during the chase. Brian then pursues Dom afterwards, and they finally decide with a quarter-mile drag race, which ends with them barely escaping an oncoming freight train, which is a tie, by the way. And then Dom flips his car, injuring him. Brian gives him the keys to his own car and lets him escape justice.
I was also surprised that they killed Johnny Tran in the end. I thought he was going to end up like going to jail or something, but no, he's dead.
Oh yeah,
he straight up dies. Yeah.
No, this movie operates outside the law.
His friend lives though. His assistant,
yes.
Lance, I believe. So he'll probably come up as a villain later on. I'm going to guess.
Yeah, it would not surprise me.
Won't surprise me at all. Yeah. So they race. And they're going to race for Dominic's freedom, right? Like, that's like what they're going to do. Put everything on the line. Half a mile at a time, or no, quarter mile at a time. And, it ends in a tie because of the train. Dominic somehow doesn't die when he's going like 90 miles per hour through the train stop, hitting a truck.
Yeah, that's what we learned in this movie.
It's like a little scratch on his head. He's okay.
Guns kill people, cars don't.
Yeah.
If you're in a car, you're good. You're going to be fine. If you have a gun pointed at you, you're probably not going to make it.
Right. A lot of guns get pointed in this movie. They very rarely do they get fired, though.
Yeah, that's true.
It's really just Johnny Tran, I think, is the only one that knows how to pull a trigger.
He goes through a lot of bullets.
Yeah. And the truck driver, of course.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, a lot of driving and shotgunning at the same time, like a
impressive
twisted Mario Kart. Yeah. So the movie ends with Vin Diesel's character saying, "Well, I didn't expect that," and Brian's like, I owed you a 10 second?
A 10-second car,
which he gives him because it's his car. He gives him the keys and basically lets him get away, and that's the movie. That's it.
It's setting up
it's
the
right
sequel.
There. What'd you think of that movie?
It was fine. By the time I got the movie, I didn't really care what happened.
That's true. It was that I honestly I thought they were going to end it before the race being over, kind of like Rocky 3.
Yeah.
Where like they're about to fight and then they go to credits. I thought they were going to take off and we were never going to know who won the race. It was just going to end with like a freeze frame of like one car in front of the other, cut to credits. No, they resolve it, I guess. Then there's a post-credit scene. Did you see the post? Yeah, where it's got Dominic is driving through Mexico, Baja, Mexico. And he says that quote again about living his life a quarter mile at a time. Was there any necessity to that post-credit scene? Did it have to happen? Was it
absolutely not?
Didn't really play. Didn't lead up to. Normally, in a post-credit scene, you're trying to tease the sequel.
Well, they didn't know there was going to be a sequel. I mean, and we can get into sort of the meta story around the movie, but this was not supposed to be as big of a success as it was. Based on a Vibe magazine article from 1998. The first actor to sign on was actually Paul Walker. This was a Paul Walker vehicle, and Vin Diesel was added later. And yeah, it grossed an astonishing $200 million on a like $38 million budget, which, by the way, when I started watching the second movie, I really noticed how small budgeted the first movie was, where it's like, damn, that does look really cheap. And yeah, there was no intention of a sequel. It just was so wildly successful they couldn't not.
Yeah. Yeah. So overall, how many cans of Nas would you rank this movie, Sean? Out of it's a 10-second car, so out of 10 tanks of Nas.
Out of 10 tanks of Nas, The Fast and The Furious is 4 Nas tanks.
Four tanks?
Yes.
You got a lead foot, though, so that'll blow the engine, so just be careful.
Yeah, but that apparently won't matter. The car will continue to run perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Even though it showed literal screws falling out of the engine.
That's true. You can just drive it away later on. Totally fine. Oh, a dude gets waterboarded with oil in this movie. That's another note that I made here.
Yes, Johnny Tran shoves an... At first, I didn't know what he was talking about. The line is really good as I scroll through this quote page because I really liked it. He goes, "What are we feeling, Lance? 40 weight? 50 weight? 40 weight sounds nice." And he just starts pumping oil in his mouth. Not as good as the rat torture scene in Too Fast, Too Furious. That one's better, but it was still pretty cool.
I was going to say, these movies do torture.
Yes.
They like... I'm looking forward every movie to a unique torture method that I hadn't seen before. I think the oil one I did actually see in... was it Three Kings? That movie with George Clooney? It's an Iraq War movie. Desert Storm movie. Anyway... That something similar happens in that one, but yeah, that was he pumps him up with the oil, and then he has him kiss his foot, but then before he kisses him in the foot, he like kicks him in the face.
Kicks him in the face, yeah, badass.
Yeah, Johnny Tran's a bad guy. Should have a shirt that says "I'm a bad guy. I'm a bad dude.
My name is Johnny Tran, and I'm a bad man."
Johnny.
And on the back it says, "I have a motorcycle and a machine gun."
That's right, and I steal DVD players.
Now, Matt, a couple other remaining little facts about this movie. It's an award-winning movie. Did you know that? Vin Diesel and Paul Walker won Best On-Screen Team at the MTV Movie Awards.
That's an award? Oh, at the MTV Awards. Okay.
Yes. No, it's not an Oscar. It's an MTV Movie Award. But they lost. Rick Yoon was nominated for Best Movie Sleazebag at the Teen Choice Awards. Did not win. Matt, I've got a few leftover notes here I just think would be worth sharing, if you don't mind. I didn't take that many notes, but I wrote, this may be the least subtle movie ever made. And I also wrote, this is a feature-length energy drink commercial.
Yes. I noticed a lot of product placement that was kind of...
massive.
It was very. There was a lot of like the thing in the early 2000s.
I mean, and honestly, some of it was like they're drinking Coronas, and I'm like, well, the guys drink beers, and it's
he
LA.
Explicitly mentions. He says like, I hope you can have any beer you want as long as it's a Corona. Might as well, as long as it's a nice, refreshing Corona beer.
My favorite product placement was probably when they're having the race at the beginning of the movie and the streets are blocked off, and the one person, I guess, who has to use the street is the pizza delivery guy.
And it's a pizza.
With the big Pizza Hut logo.
Yes.
And he's like, turn around, pizza boy.
Come on, I got some hot, delicious pizzones, brand new at Pizza Hut to deliver. Some hungry families out there who really want our $5.99 stuffed crust pepperoni.
This crazy bread's not going to eat itself.
It's delicious.
So I appreciated the audacity of that.
Unless you want to bring that stuffed crust over here, yeah, no. Snapple got a good spot.
Yes,
a couple of people at the party were drinking Snapple. I noticed and very
reason.
Clearly had the labels facing the camera, so you knew it was. Snapple doesn't get a lot of credit in movies, so good for them. A lot of calories in Snapple, but yeah. What else?
What would you rank it out of 10 NOS tanks?
I would say that the first part of the movie, I think we started out with like 5 tanks of NOS, and then like 2 of them exploded in the middle of the race.
Oof.
But it made the back of the car catch fire and look really cool because of the special effects. So we ended the race with only like maybe like 2 or 3 cans of NOS, but we made it to the end to the finish line, and we drove off happily. You know, it wasn't an offensive movie. I wasn't like, honestly, I really wasn't. I wasn't too bothered by it. I know I like to look at like try to find stuff to pick on with it, but it was a very inoffensive movie. It was very benign, I guess. What it was. It never tried to fool you into thinking it was something other than what it was. It was a dumb car movie.
It's a very 2001 movie. I think Limp Bizkit is on the soundtrack. I mean, it's a very 2001 era. Like, what I love to do when we do these movies, I watch the trailers, the original trailers. You watch this trailer and it's like, holy shit, this is like Daredevil, which I think was out around the same time, which was also
must have been the Sam Raimi ones, right?
Yeah, it was. But that was actually a tasteful movie, not like these other ones where, all of these sort of action films of the time. I am going to have to look at the 2001 highest grossing movies.
I'm really glad you mentioned the Point Break thing, because I don't think
it's Point Break. It's like no joke. It's Point Break.
It's Point Break, but with cars. Yeah.
Yeah. Literally. I mean, no joke. It's
the
pretty
whole plot, yeah.
It's pretty silly.
Start to finish, pretty much.
I can't say I'm surprised.
Less surfing, though. There was no surfing. I thought maybe they were going to get surfing when they're Vin Diesel and Brian are eating at the shrimp shack.
Which, by the way, they ate at a seaside shack in Point Break.
Oh my god, they did!
Same scene.
They absolutely... It might have been the same one. So the director here clearly was a fan.
Knew what he was doing. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
No doubt about it. The Fast and the Furious was the 12th highest grossing movie of 2001. Above it includes such great films as Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, Shrek, Monsters, Inc., Rush Hour 2, The Mummy Returns, Pearl Harbor, Jurassic Park 3, Planet of the Apes.
Tons of movies, yeah.
Now, Matt, we're an hour into this evening's broadcast. Do you want to go to Too Fast, Too Furious? You want to push it to next week? How are you feeling? You still got some NOS in you?
I just drank this whole thing of NOS, so I'm ready to go. If you want, we could break this up into 2 episodes later. But I'm ready to record now. I'm ready to... Unless you want to take a break, you want to stretch your legs?
I'm good. I'm good. We can keep going.
All right, let's roll then.
All right. Too Fast, Too Furious, 2003, 2 years later. Matt, did you know that they offered Vin Diesel $25 million to do the sequel, and he turned it down?
Yes, he was filming Chronicles of Riddick at the time.
Yeah.
You ever see that movie?
No, I've not seen that movie. No. Are you sure it was... I know the movie he did instead of this one was Triple X, I think you're thinking of.
Oh, was it
Triple X was 2002.
Yeah. I thought it was Chronicles of Riddick.
Because the Triple X
you're right.
Triple X was directed by the same guy who directed The Fast and the Furious, and he took Diesel with him over to Triple X, who paid him, I believe, $20 million.
Well, this one, so Too Fast, Too Furious was 2004, right?
2003. Yeah, Chronicles of Riddick was 2004.
Chronicles of Riddick was 2004. So Triple X was what he was filming?
Instead of Too Fast, Too Furious.
Instead of Too Fast, Too Furious. Okay.
Yep.
That makes sense.
Which left us in an interesting spot because you end the first movie on a cliffhanger involving a character who doesn't want to come back. Man. Thankfully, we have Paul Walker, but who is going to replace Vin Diesel?
Vin Diesel was all over the place in the early 2000s.
He was a hard-working man.
Yeah. So who comes in and replaces him?
Why, that has to be American singer, rapper, songwriter, actor, and model Tyrese Gibson.
Yep.
Tyrese.
What else was he in besides this? Was he in any other? He was in the Transformers movies.
His breakout film was Baby Boy. And the reason I mention that is because that was directed by John Singleton, who then directed Too Fast, Too Furious. And brought him along with it. Annapolis, okay. Four Brothers. He was in a couple of the Transformers movies as like the sidekick guy, the first 3. Now he pretty much just does the Fast and the Furious movies, although he has a big role in the upcoming Morbius movie. Have you seen that?
Morpheus?
Morbius.
No. What is that?
Morbius is a Spider-Man villain who's getting his own side movies. He's essentially a vampire, is the plot.
Okay.
And Tyrese Gibson has a multi-picture deal to play the FBI agent who's hunting Morbius. Morbius is being played by Jared Leto.
Gotcha. I haven't heard any of this. Okay.
Yeah, that movie is coming out this coming January.
Wild. Okay. Good for him then. I didn't think he was bad in this movie. Did you? What were your opinions about Tyrese Gibson in this one?
This movie has bigger flaws than him.
Yeah.
I don't think he's bad. I don't think the movie... I felt he was a little flat. I know in the later movies, which I haven't seen, but he's a bit more wisecracking, a bit more of the jokester guy. I would have liked to have seen that more here. He wasn't... He needed either to be funnier or tougher.
I think that... So I'm going to have a hypothesis here, and you tell me if this tracks.
Okay.
I think what they were going for in the first movie was very clearly Point Break. It was one of those like it was a Point Break combined with like the kids band together to save the community center type feel. And in this movie, I think they were going for like a buddy cop movie.
Yeah.
I think the director may have just seen like Die Hard or Lethal Weapon. Actually, Lethal Weapon probably even that's what I was actually thinking of. Lethal Weapon. Like probably had just seen Lethal Weapon, was like, let's do that. Set it in our universe. Lethal Weapon meets Rush Hour.
Yeah.
Kind of. So
yeah.
I think
kind of 48 hours.
I think what they wanted Tyrese Gibson to be was like a Chris Tucker.
Yeah.
They wanted him to be like a wacky sidekick, because they have him do like, you know, when he lights the windshield of that car on fire.
Yeah, he has a few jokes.
And he cracks jokes about, like everything that's going on. Oh, damn, look at all these ladies in this club. That has that one scene. Yeah, I think they wanted him to be like a jokey guy. A jokey, like, side character. And he serves that role decently, I think. Like you said, the movie has bigger problems than him, so...
Well, but it's also, you watch this movie and you're like, oh, they wrote that role for Vin Diesel, right? Where Dom Toretto comes back, is forced to work with Brian in exchange for his record being expunged.
They did.
Like, it makes perfect sense.
They wrote it completely with the assumption that Vin Diesel was coming back, and he didn't.
And so, Tyrese Gibson playing Roman Pierce, a childhood friend of Brian who's on house arrest, who they say they'll wipe his record clean if he helps Brian O'Connor in his new city of Miami.
Why does he end up is he from Miami? Is that why why does he end up there?
The movie does not elaborate.
No, right? I thought I missed something.
No
explanation. It's like, okay, we're in Miami now. I guess just because they wanted it to be different from the first movie. Because if they were in L.A. again, it would be like, oh, well, we already saw L.A.
Well, and I think
else. Let's go to Miami.
You know, before this became a billion-dollar franchise, I think the idea was probably, you know what, let's just pump out a bunch of these sequels that'll be set in a different city every time, and they'll be lower budget, and, you know, we'll make a few bucks on them, and that's that.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, you don't want to, you know, shoot the same movie again, but
it makes sense.
Yeah, they don't really give the character a reason to be in Miami. He's just there.
No, no, and actually, he's not a cop anymore.
No.
They fired him after letting Dom go, so now he's just a regular guy.
Still into street racing, though. He still loves the scene.
He is, and that's why the police bring him in, because of the villain of this film, Carter Varone, a ruthless Argentinian drug lord whose organization, the U.S. Customs Enforcement, it needs them to infiltrate because he's smuggling drugs?
I think so. I think he's smuggling drugs. They don't,
because we just see cash.
It's not DVDs. I know that. He's got a lot of money. So, and it's Miami, so I assume they maybe allude to it being like cocaine or something.
Yeah,
yeah. They
probably.
say he's an Argentinian drug lord, is how they describe him. So yeah, it's drugs.
And they have to go undercover, get hired by Varone, who already has an undercover agent played by Eva Mendes, who has been long undercover with him, and becomes Brian's love interest, which makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah, this movie had a lot of problems, a lot more problems than the first one.
I will say, I think it was better directed. It looked better. I thought the action sequences were better. I think the action was very good. Yeah. And clearly they spent more money on it. The script was really half-assed.
Yeah, the script was bad.
Cole Hauser, who plays Carter Verone, was a bad casting choice. I think he is too bland of a villain.
Yeah, he is. He didn't really seem that into it. I think I wrote that in my notes. Villain does not seem into it. Like, it sounds like he doesn't even really buy what he's doing. He's like, we saw all those really great, well-written villains in the Bond movies.
Yeah.
And I really think genuinely most of them, when they got into the they had such good backstories and good motivations, even if they were completely stupid, like Moonraker, where they were going to build a new civilization on the moon of like eugenics people. The actors delivered it and presented it in a way where they believed it.
Right.
Whereas this guy is just like, yeah, man, like, I'm a drug, I don't know. They told me to show up on the set and they'd pay me a bunch of money. Like,
yeah, it's very milquetoast, and you can see the movie really does want you to focus on Brian and Roman, and Tej and some of these other folks. It's not really about the villain. It's just that the movie needs to have a villain for it to exist.
Right. Otherwise, it would just be what I think they wanted to have all along, which is just a bunch of drag races, one after the other. They just want to film cars going fast.
Which they did. And I actually thought there's a great scene where they're sort of zooming through traffic and zooming through residential streets, and then there's a little bit of a race, and to get to the Ferrari, and they're going through. I enjoyed the action very much in this.
So, I don't know. So where should we begin with this one?
Where would you like to begin?
We should begin with Ludacris, of course.
You want to do a whole plot walkthrough?
Yeah.
All right.
The first one, yeah.
Then let's begin. That's right. Tej Parker, a local mechanic, and again, just wearing the cleanest, most designer-looking coveralls I've ever seen. A giant afro, very interesting character. They have a race. They have a race at the start of the movie, just like the first one, which is very funny to me because they race through the streets. It's shot very nicely. But then Tej is like, I got a secret for the race. And then he opens up like a drawbridge. And I'm like, you're going to kill them. That's not a fun secret. Right. That's not a surprise.
It's a trap.
And somehow they survive it.
They do. They go really fast and they get over the drawbridge. But, yeah. And he... somehow the city is okay with him doing that, and he has the power to do that somehow. So,
well, but that's the thing. So Brian wins the race, and after the race, he's taken into custody. He's arrested at that point, and that's when he meets with FBI agent Bilkins and U.S. Customs agent Markham, who ask him to go undercover to bring down Carter Verone.
This isn't the one where he gets arrested, but it's pretend, right? I think that's the first one.
They do it in the first movie, but then they arrest him for real in the second movie.
Because the first one they like cuff him and bring him out, and then they go through all this trouble, and I was like, it's kind of messed up. Like, like they go through the whole like
can't break cover.
We gotta make it look convincing. So, yeah, they bring him in, and they say, we need you to catch. We're really mad at you for going fast and breaking all these laws, but we need your help. We got bigger fish to fry. We've got. These instead of going really fast, these guys are selling drugs, and we gotta stop them, just like you stop those DVD salesmen, these DVD thieves.
Yes, that you then let get away.
That you totally forgot about most of the time, and then he killed one of them. So, yeah. Now we need you to stop the drug dealer, who is. But how is he the drug dealer connected to the drag racing? Is what I want to know. Is he sponsoring them, or was it a front? Was it?
I have two theories. Movie's not clear, in my opinion. I think it's either that they're like, okay, this guy's a former cop, so he knows how cops work. He has a skill in driving. We can figure out a way to get him in there, and we trust him, or. It's that Verone actually... Because Verone say he has like a little competition for drivers, right? So maybe they knew that was happening, and they're like, oh, this is great convenient. Former undercover cop, and he knows how to drive real good. Makes sense. I think it's just more of a coincidence thing than anything else.
Sure. I guess it's passable.
Yeah,
we'll
it's
just
not
take
great.
it at face value.
But they do tell him, they say you need a partner, and you're gonna be part. I did enjoy this scene where they were like, oh, you're gonna need a partner, and they give him like this generic looking FBI agent guy, and he's like, what's up with this guy? He doesn't know anything about cars. And he pulls do you remember this? And he pulls the little bit with the soda cup, which I was trying to find.
Like, should I use this Gal 10 or a Gal 20?
Yeah, could you tell me right quick which would be a better motor for my Skyline, a Gallo 12 or a Gallo 24? And he goes, 24. And he goes, I didn't know pizza places made motors.
I had no idea what the hell that meant, because I don't know anything about cars either. Well, in my opinion, the FBI agent should have been like, dude, I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
No, but you didn't see, the front of the soda cup said Gallo's Pizza on the front.
Oh, so he made up. Oh, I didn't catch that. Okay,
yeah,
so that made that up.
So
There's
that
no
was
such thing as a Gallo motor.
Exactly. That was the test, where it was like neither answer was right. And the agent should have been smart enough to be like, "Oh, I went to Gallo's Pizza today for lunch."
You would think an FBI agent would have like paid attention to the details, but
yeah, because he was no good, man. So
he didn't know about cars, and he can only work with somebody who knows about cars, Sean. So
he said, "I got a guy."
So he said, "I'm going to choose my own partner. I'm going to just pick some guy, and he's going to be my partner for this." And he chooses his best bud, Roman Pierce,
who's very mad at him.
Who is very mad at him. Yes, they fight. They have like a little play fight where it's a fight, but it's not like, I don't think anybody's getting. It's actually I wrote that it was kind of an embarrassing fight, because they end up like almost like tickling each other at the end, because they get both of them. It's like watching two old men fight. They're on the ground and they like roll around a little bit, but they're like, I don't think anybody's throwing any punches or anything. It was a very benign fight. It was a very chill fight.
It was pretty mild. They fight it out. We learned that Roman went to prison for a few years right around the time Brian became a cop. Brian didn't actually bust him, but Brian becoming a cop sort of hurt his trust in Brian.
Well, I think Roman, he held a little bit of resentment for him by saying, like, I think deep down he knew that Brian didn't bust him, but he still was like, was trying to blame him for his own problems. He comes to terms with it in the end of the movie, and he's like, it wasn't your fault. I was a bad dude, or something like that toward the end. But in this point in the movie, we think that he blames Brian for his arrest.
Yep.
He thinks that it was Brian's fault that he went to jail. He went to jail for like 3 years or something, and had to wear an ankle bracelet.
Yep.
Like he was under like house arrest, which he was living out of a motorhome, because he said, like, why do you think I got the motorhome so close to the racetrack? So we learned that things are not going that well for him right now.
No, they are not. But luckily he gets busted out. He reluctantly agrees to help. They're issued 2 cars and are hired by Verone to obtain a package. First, they're tested against some other drivers. They have to go to the confiscated Ferrari located in an impound lot. Big action sequence, lots of driving, some explosions, some big rigs on the road. They break in, successfully get the package. Yeah.
Yeah, they get the package. Then I think is there another race at some point? This movie seems to have like races just popping up just because so they could have races.
Yeah, so in order, there's the first race at the beginning of the movie, which Brian wins. Mm-hmm. Then there's the race to compete to see who gets to be Verone's drivers. Then there's the race because the 2 cars they're issued by the FBI have locators in them. They want to have backup cars, so they race 2 guys in American muscle cars. 2 of the guys they competed against for Verone's hiring, and they raced for pink slips. They raced for their cars. It's a dramatic moment, but they win the cars. So that's another race. And then there's the final race when they're actually doing the delivery at the end of the movie.
Yeah. at some point, so the movie is just kind of building up so that Brian and Roman will learn to trust each other again. That's really the main point, like the main impetus of their working together, because Roman wants to get his name cleared. He wants to get his record expunged and get the ankle bracelet off of him. And Brian is he's the guy that he continuously fails upwards. He's failed upwards in the last movie. He's failing upwards in this movie, and he just wants to advance by just racing cars. And
well, that's the thing. He's really good at racing and really bad at everything else.
Yes, that is his
because he does win races. Like, he's clearly a very good driver. If I needed somebody to win a race, I would hire him. But he sucks at being a cop and being undercover and not falling in love with the one person you're not supposed to. Because really, to me, the villain barely has a plot in this movie. The two plot lines are Roman and Brian and Eva Mendes.
Yes, it's just them trying not to screw things up.
Yeah,
for the most part,
and then they immediately do.
And they do. And so the villain, he's just kind of like a background, like he's barely there. He's barely there. Until we get to the torture scene.
Yeah, so they're invited to the Verone's club. The VIP section, Verone notices Brian getting handsy with Eva Mendes, doesn't like it, so he brings him around back and makes them watch as he tortures a local police officer into giving them a 15-minute window in which the cops won't be looking while they make the transaction. And he does that, Matt. I have to be honest. I've seen a lot of different torture things in movies. I was a fan of the TV show 24, which basically invented torture porn on television. I had never seen this one. This was a new one for me.
That's right. There's been like similar things, but I haven't seen. Yeah, it was very kind of. Would you say it's realistic? Do you think this could like work?
Do I think so just to break it down, if you haven't seen the film, the idea is that you put a rat on someone's stomach with a metal bucket over it, and you use a blowtorch to heat up the bucket. And the only way the rat has to escape is through the human body, and will literally claw and chew and work its way eventually through the human body to escape. Now,
the line that the villain has is, what does he say? Like a rat can shoot right through a sewer pipe or something? Is that true?
Yeah.
He says you should see these things. They can they can chew their way right through a sewer pipe.
Yes, basically. Yeah, I don't know if that's true, to be honest. I guess it wouldn't surprise me, but that also seems like the kind of thing a movie would just make up.
Yeah. I think it would probably hurt a lot. I don't know if the rat would probably get really tired before it went all the way through a body. Could probably do some like bad damage and stuff to your skin, but
well, that's my point. Is like, do I honestly think it would chew its way in through your stomach and like out through the side? No. Do I think it could really mess you up? Yes. And I guess you might die before the rat finishes. You know.
Well, he also gives there's another great line there where he says it's there's nothing to worry about while it's screaming. It's when it gets really quiet that it's starting to do its work.
Yes.
So like
that was good.
Psychological torture right there.
That was cool. I was like genuinely like I was like really bothered by it. So I give it that may be one of the best scenes in the movie.
Yeah. Then he takes the blowtorch and he says to him like, "Tell him I'm gonna blowtorch out your eyes." So he's like, "Why don't you just start with that? Like, why don't you just that's probably worse, I would guess, than having a rat chew through you." So he tells him basically what he's trying to get him to agree to is to give them like to have the cops basically like turn the other way for a little while he gets the drugs out and moves them to a different location. Eventually he agrees to it because the guy says the rat will be if you let anybody know that we had this conversation, the rat will meet your wife. And he names his wife and his two kids.
Yeah,
it's like your son Clay and your daughter Amanda. Like he's like names them, so that's messed up. So the only real moment we get of the villain being a villain. So
yeah,
like,
I would have liked more of that. No, I would have liked more of that.
Maybe they should have like Johnny Tran, for as obvious as he was of a bad guy. He was a bad guy. Like we knew from the beginning, this guy sucks. This guy is like awful. This up until this point, this villain was just a businessman. He was just just a suit. And now he's finally like, oh, okay, this is why we're not supposed to like him. Yeah.
And then this is the point, shortly after this is when we learn Eva Mendes informs Brian that Verone plans to kill both of them after they complete the mission. She does that by sneaking out of Verone's house and going to the houseboat Brian is staying on.
2004, they had phones where they could text, right?
Yeah, I just think, like, what a... And then she was followed.
Hey, they're going to kill you after you complete the mission.
Or even, like, meet me on a park bench somewhere so I can tell you... No, she goes, like, into his bedroom.
Something, yeah.
And then the henchmen of the bad guy come around looking for her. They go into the houseboat, but Eva Mendes has escaped through a thing on the roof, which then I'm like, how did they not see her?
Yeah, no, they were it was a really nice day. They were distracted by the sunshine.
Yeah, it was pretty whack.
I don't know. They were thinking about Nas. That was what was going on.
But also there
didn't have
this
their
was
Nas
where
that morning.
This was where they had Roman had a couple of good lines where he was talking to the henchmen like, Verone pay y'all to keep a straight face like that? Because if I was making money, shit, I'd get that mole removed off my damn nose. And there was another one about the, how much you pay y'all anyway? Every time I see y'all, man, you got the silk shirts on, jewelry, you know, looking real Miami, you know? I caught you walking up in the club. You got the hamburger meat all hanging out, you know? So, jokes. They got jokes.
He's the Chris Tucker of the movie. He's got to be funny. He's got to be the wacky comic partner.
The hilarious guy.
But that's the thing is, if Vin Diesel had been in this role, do you think they would have? I guess they probably would have. They probably would have made him kind of. They probably were like, he was too silly in the first movie. Let's make him, or he was too serious in the first movie. Let's give him some.
I think Paul Walker was funnier in the first movie.
Paul Walker was, yeah.
Yes.
So he was the straight man in this movie.
Right. So Vin Diesel was more the straight man in the other movie.
Yes. It was kind of a role reversal, I guess, yeah.
And so that's why I think Paul Walker comes off as a little flat in this, is because they let Tyrese have all the jokes.
Because he's supposed to be the wacky partner.
Yeah.
Even though he was the one that got screwed over by Walker, so he should be bitter. He should be bitter and kind of sour the whole movie. Which they only really did right in that one scene where the cop accidentally shoots at him and he shoots back to try to make it convincing. They almost blow his cover. That was the only one that I thought did. But then at the end he's like, I'm going to take that sandwich. And he takes the sandwich away and eats it in the car.
Yeah, the character motivations and character development are
They don't really know their characters. They just know about
it's not
cars,
good.
Car racing. Yeah.
So they decide to go ahead with the mission. Brian and Roman get the duffel bags of Verone's money with his henchmen. But the cop who promised them the 15-minute window instead decides to call in the police to move in for an arrest, resulting in a high-speed chase across the city. Big action set piece. The police are chasing him. Customs is chasing him. It's at this point they find out that Verone isn't at the airport where they thought he was. He was actually secretly sneaking away on his yacht. This is where we get the big warehouse scramble, where all of the other streetcars come out of the warehouse, which I thought was both awesome and stupid.
Oh, it was so much of both. It was so much of both. Oh man, talk about felony. Talk about
well, that's
wow.
And they
if you were worried about racing your cars, how about pulling them out of a parking lot and smashing them into a line of police car? Wow. Oh my goodness.
Even better, I loved how Tej and Suki both get in their cars, pretend to be Brian and Roman, and lead the police on a chase, and then go to jail. That's aiding and abetting a crime.
Oh yeah, it sure is. It's and it's a serious crime too. That's yeah. All those people are looking at 20 years, but they're all very happy about it. And oh yeah, let's go, and they're all excited about it. They drive their cars. Yeah, man, it's a scramble. and they hit the police car, and then what?
Yeah.
They should just immediately cut to the courthouse where they're like, "We sentence you to 30 years in federal prison."
But we were helping our
assaulting a
friends
police
deliver
officer.
money to an Argentinian drug lord. Because they don't know they're undercover cops. That's the other thing. None of these people know they're undercover. So what? They're like, yeah, let's help our friends do crime.
Yeah, and let them get away. It'll be so cool because they'll all get away, and
we'll go to jail.
We'll go to jail. That's that's what the plan is.
But I think you could sum up the entirety of Fast and the Furious in the phrase, but it looked cool.
But it looked cool. Well, remember they have the police chopper there too that's watching the whole thing, and they're watching these cars just slam into the cop cars, and the other ones are all driving past them, and I guess they didn't catch the aftermath where like the driver's just like, oh, that was funny, right? They just get pounded into the cement and then locked up. And meanwhile, the FBI agent's like, they got us this time. Like
he's funny. That dude, that's
like
Tom Barry as Agent Bilkins, who's very funny.
Yes, because I think he knows what this movie is, and he's just it's just fun for him. I guess he's just wearing the Hawaiian shirt. It was my day off. Like, yeah.
They escaped from the police in the two muscle cars they won earlier. They switch cars. They approach the destination point, but instead of the airport, they say go to the river, go to where the boat is. He goes there, and the bad guys try and kill Brian and Roman. They use ejector seats powered by nitrous oxide, which was dumb but also cool, like the rest of the movie.
Yep, the director saw Lethal Weapon and thought, we need a boat. The bad guy needs to get on a boat, and then we need to have a car go onto get onto the boat.
Yeah, so Verone reveals he knows Monica was undercover. That's why he gave her the wrong information to relay to the other undercover guys. So Verone forces Monica onto the private yacht.
Why doesn't he just shoot her?
I don't know.
It's that classic bad guy mistake where he's just like, they could shoot her, take her body somewhere and dump it in the water.
Yeah.
But instead they take her alive onto the boat, which is like basically that's why Paul Walker's like, oh, they got her on the boat, we got to go save her. No, like why not? I don't know.
Well, but he also should have just killed Brian, because Brian was standing there and he told the henchman, take him over there and kill him.
Oh, that's right. Yes, take him over there. I don't.
It's like he had a gun pointed right at him. Like, you can just do it.
I'm a wealthy drug lord, and I don't like to see people get shot in the face.
That's right. I don't get my hands dirty.
Stomach's gnawed out by a rat. I'm totally for it.
That's more my speed. Guns too messy.
I get a little queasy around guns. Go take him over there. Mm-hmm.
Very dumb. Oh, that's just your classic dumb action movie stuff. Roman and Brian reunite, decide they're going to get Verone, but the only way to do that is to drive off a ramp. They say, let's do it Dukes of Hazzard style. They drive the Camaro off the ramp, and they crash on top of the yacht, somehow survive it. And that's a genuine thing where I'm like, even if your car made it onto the boat, I truly don't think you would be okay.
Well, that's just like the truck at the end of the first movie. When Vin Diesel hits it straight on, going 105, he should be absolutely like in heaven right now. But no, he just gets a little bump on his head, and he's okay. He's like, oh well, I guess that didn't go as planned or whatever.
And so Brian shoots and wounds Verone, and Eva Mendes has him at gunpoint, and he gets arrested, as we see. Brian and Roman get full pardons, I guess, because the cop is just like, all right, your record's clean. And I'm like, again, I don't think he has the authority to do that.
No.
They return the money to the police, but they keep a little bit of the money for themselves. They agree to stay in Miami, and Brian suggests opening a garage, setting up a sequel that also will never happen.
That's right. They do that classic buddy cop at the end where he's like, I took some of the money. And then Roman's like, we ain't gonna go hungry no more. And he like pulls his shirt up and he's got like lots of money around his pants. And then they might as well have just like high-fived or something and then just freeze frame and then just go to credits, because that's The end of the buddy cop movie where everybody makes it out. Oh, of course they have the scene where he looks at Eva Mendes as she's walking away, and she turns around and like gives him like a wink or something. And then Roman is like, "Oh yeah, man, you're straight. That's awesome, bro. I gotta keep you, yeah." Like, yes. There's a lot of problems in this movie. It's a 2004 flick, and
yeah,
that's it.
Not great. Obviously, having a lot of questions. Vin Diesel not in the film. Paul Walker is in the film.
Did you miss
Matt,
Vin Diesel?
What?
Did you miss Vin Diesel in this movie? I'll be honest with you. I missed him. I was looking for him the whole movie.
Name any movie, it's going to be better with Vin Diesel in it. I mean, that's a fact.
Right. He's kind of like this. He's like the green onions, right? It's like it automatically just makes things better, I think.
But I think, and there's a lot of comments about how on the first Fast and the Furious, when Vin Diesel came on board, he proposed several script changes that made it into the movie, and part of the reason he passed on Too Fast was that he hated the script. So my thinking is, it theoretically would be a better movie if he were in it, not because he was just simply in it, but because he may have offered some improvements to the script. Because the script's a problem. If he was in this movie as written, I don't think it would be... even Vin Diesel could make it that good. I think if he had participated in the process, it would have been a little bit better.
How much Nas do we give to this one? Too Fast.
I think I like this movie more than you did.
I think
is my guess.
Yeah.
Because it's not a great movie. It's really not. I think it's a more competent movie than the first one. I think it does its characters more of a disservice than the first one. I think Paul Walker is good in it. I think Tyrese does a fine job. I just think it didn't capture what was good about the first one. I'm going to give it 3 tanks of NOS out of 10.
Yeah, I think for me, when we hold this movie up with the first one, I think the first one did a better job of balancing story with special effects, story with direction, story with production. Mm-hmm. Kind of try to keep it more even keel. In the second movie, I think the story took very much a backseat to production, and I think we're probably going to see that. I'm guessing for the rest of the movies in the franchise, this idea that these movies are kind of a vehicle for car go fast, man fight other man, car go fast, boom, car explode.
Yeah,
and the story is very much secondary, and I think this is where it began. I think the first one was more. They didn't know they were going to make more of it, so they actually gave a shit about the story a little bit. So I'm going to probably for this one. It didn't have. I didn't think the special effects were as good. I thought that the maybe some of the shots were better. Maybe some of the directing was better. But there was a really cool explosion in the first one when the Nas cans exploded on Johnny Tran's turf, and it's Nas, the Nas, run away. But we didn't see that here, so I'm gonna. It's Too Fast, Too Furious, 2 tanks of Nas.
Yeah, and I will stand up for the action in this one. It was more realistic. You know what I mean? It really did feel like they were actually driving around in traffic and swerving around cars, and I appreciated that. I agree. In the later films, we're going to see a lot more over-the-top, unrealistic action. One thing I'll just mention here, Matt, is that the first movie directed by Rob Cohen, the sequel by John Singleton. All the rest of the movies are directed by Justin Lin, except for Furious 7 and Fate of the Furious, but Furious 7 he basically directed. I think we're going to see a much more consistent vision in the movies going forward. Justin Lin is an incredibly competent director, and I think Tokyo Drift, I know, is a bit of a question mark, but I think the movies are going to get better as we go along, not worse. I do want to quickly mention a few facts about this movie. The mansion owned by the villain in this movie is owned in real life by Sylvester Stallone.
Really?
Yes.
Old Sly Stallone.
This movie made.
I'm surprised he didn't want to like cameo in this movie or something, or make like some kind of like a.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
What are those movies? He was The Incredibles.
Yeah,
because
that would have been great.
Who is Vin Diesel in those movies?
The Incredibles?
Not The Incredibles. The Invincibles? What's the one where they're all old men?
Oh.
They're good at war stuff.
Yes, no, it's
Good
the
stuff up. Schwarzenegger's in it.
Yes.
What
It's no, don't The Expendables.
Thank you, The Expendables. Right. Was Vin Diesel in that?
Yes, he was. He was in all of them.
Okay.
And by the way, he's voicing King Shark in the upcoming Suicide Squad movie. I was also going to mention this movie made $127 million in the U.S. It knocked Finding Nemo off of its number one spot, which it had been on for quite a while.
It found Nemo.
And Paul Walker won Best Movie Chemistry at the Teen Choice Awards that year.
But this movie also got kind of panned, right? It got...
people hated this movie. People really at the time did not like this movie. It's got 36% on Rotten Tomatoes. I think over time it's become a little more liked. But this generally, I think if you asked your average Fast and the Furious franchise fan, this may be one of their least liked of the whole franchise.
Metacritic had a weighted score of 38 out of 100.
Yeah, unfortunately. I believe it's got the second lowest Rotten Tomatoes score in the franchise. And the lowest Metacritic score.
Roger Ebert gave the film 3 out of 4 and said it doesn't have a brain in its head, but it's made with skill and style, and boy, it is fast and furious. The late great Roger Ebert.
Yeah, no, it's a fine movie. I mean, I will say, I think my favorite thing about the movie is the title. And some people hate the title, Too Fast, Too Furious. I think it's brilliant.
Rotten Tomatoes said, "Beautiful people and beautiful cars in a movie that won't tax the brain cells."
See, now that's the new slogan for our show.
Yes, we both beautiful people in beautiful cars.
In a podcast that won't tax
won't
your
tax
brain
your
cells.
brain cells. Not at all.
Well, there you go, Matt. Any other thoughts on either of the two movies we've discussed tonight?
No, I won't say that I'm hooked on the series, but I didn't hate either one of them, and I'm not going to dread watching the third one as much as I think I had to really talk myself into. Sean, it was really hard. I was sitting in front of the TV, and I was queuing up like the movie to watch, and I found Good Burger, and I was like, Good Burger is one of my favorite movies.
Awesome
I must have watched it like 7 times since it came out, and it was summer just starting. I was like, what if I watch Good Burger? And I was like, no, I gotta watch for the show. I gotta watch Fast and Furious, and it wasn't. I didn't hate it. I'm actually kind of glad that I watched it.
I enjoyed them.
Yeah,
they're not good movies. No. I enjoyed them.
You gotta. And I know we're very critical because that's what we do. They're not good movies, but there's something about them that people like. I don't know if people see themselves in Paul Walker, or they see themselves in Vin Diesel, or whatever, but there's something there. People go to see these movies, so.
And to me, it's just more fascinating because they are such an encapsulation of the time at which they came out. And that's what I love about doing these series, especially long-term franchises, is to see how things have changed. Literally, it's the 20-year anniversary. And so it's going to be fun to see how these movies change over those 2 decades.
I would really like to see in the new movie, I want them to do a callback to the bad guy in the movie stealing a bunch of DVD players. I want that to be the plot.
I'm sure that they do a lot of jokes.
I want somebody to be like, what is a DVD player?
Yep.
What is a DVD player, and why are you stealing them?
Yeah, I have a feeling these characters are about to go through a lot. Matt, next week we will be talking about the next 2 movies in the franchise. First, The Fast and the Furious: Tokyo Drift. A real standalone in the franchise, contains nobody from the first 2 movies. Lucas Black and Bow Wow are kind of your 2 stars of the film. And a real standalone film that takes place in Tokyo. And then Fast & Furious. So no thes and no word and. It's Fast & Furious. which is essentially a bring back reboot of the franchise. This is where Vin Diesel, Paul Walker, Michelle Rodriguez, Joanna Brewster all come back. And really, this is the reboot of the franchise, essentially.
Yeah, looking forward.
And also one of the other most hated of the franchise.
Really?
Yes.
When do we get to Tokyo Drift? That's the one I'm excited.
That's next week. That's next week.
Because that's the one that people seem to really like. That's the sense that I get is people like Tokyo Drift. It's one of the more popular ones. It's kind of like the Empire Strikes Back of the franchise. It's the one that people talk about.
Honestly,
I don't know why, but it's got the most buzz around it. At least that's the vibe that I get.
Yeah. No. It's very different from the other movies. So that's, I think, what's going to make it. And Fast ampersand Furious is also very different from the other movies. So we're going to have a lot to talk about next week.
We sure will.
Well,
Matt,
this
is me on, and thanks for talking fast. And were you more fast or furious when you watched this movie?
Probably fast.
More fast, yeah.
Yeah, I was feeling fast,
except for the parts where I was fast asleep.
Yes, you did sleep through some of the. So try and get some of that coffee going. Try to stay awake through our next two movies. Okay.
Will do.
All right.
Do a couple
Brilliant.
Of
well,
or something before we get into it. Maybe I'll drink some more Nas.
There you go. Honestly, Matt, if you're willing to do it, I will go track down a can of Nas to drink at some point during this sequence.
Sean, I'm down. I'm so down. I'll go to the Quick Check down the street and I'll see if they have Nas.
All right.
And if they
don't,
I'll just order it online. I don't even care how much it costs, honestly.
We will try some Nas on the show and see how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
Man, we got to watch these promises. But we do promise to do that next week. We hope you all join us then. I won't go through the usual spiel. We've been on long enough. But stay tuned right here to Up for Debate all summer long for our big blockbuster summer as we cover the Fast Saga. On behalf of Matt, I'm Sean. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next time for more movie magic on another Up for Debate.